There's no longer white-collar jobs. They are nowhere to be found. The population is increasing on a daily basis, and the government cannot provide all the needed jobs for the bobbing youths.
In the history of Holy Communion, sir, we've never heard that somebody contacted the deeds from the other person before.
I think, sir.
Not that I mean to undermine polytechnics, they do a good job, but university education is actually more valuable.
Hello viewers, I am delighted to welcome you to this week's edition of Crossfire, reaching you from the Advent Cable Network Nigeria Television, ACNNTV. I am Olusegun Emmanuel Akinola. Remember, Crossfire is a program that treats controversial topics on diverse issues surrounding the family, church, and society. It's like a friendly match where we just warm up by raising issues. The ball is eventually left in your court to decide. The new normal, the terminology we use nowadays, is that social and physical gatherings have become so restricted. So what becomes of our primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions? We thank God at least technology has gradually bridged the gap for both students and for teachers. But for how long? And is it actually effective as the traditional in-class learning? In order to help us with this question and many more, we have two educationists with us today. Mrs. Nkiru Nwofo, who is Vice Principal Admin of Anglican International Academy, Abuja, who will be speaking on online education, while Mr. Osiloka Zikora, a former chairman of the Governing Council of Fed Poly Offa, Kwara State, will be speaking for traditional education. You're both welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being with us on the program today.
Thank you.
Well, we say ladies first, so we'll fire the first gun at you. Yes. Now, of course, no doubt, both online education and the traditional counterpart have both pros and cons. But why would you lean more towards online education? Why will you say online education has come to stay and it's important?
Okay.
Yes.
I must say that's an easy one for me to deal with right now, because in a sense, I'm a believer of sorts now. I've been converted fully as far as online learning is concerned. We were all here when the COVID broke out.
Yes.
And as a school, we started thinking of how to deal with this. And it was online learning that came to the rescue.
Yes.
Only 2 weeks ago, we completed our third term at AIA. And that's because we were able to leverage on an online platform that allowed us to reach all our students and cover what we should have covered, when all the other students were at home.
In class.
So for me, that has helped us bridge that gap in a way that our parents have called in to say how much they appreciate it. So the fact that he was able to do that for us, for me, for starters, practically involved in it, is one reason why online learning is the way to go, especially in situations
like this.
These.
Yeah. If you have the chance to continue with the online education, would you actually say students should stay at home and then you continue with online education?
Well, the thing is, of course, I would prefer to have the children with me. But we haven't heard anything from the federal government now saying this is when you resume. But we've already put a plan in place for when we can actually start our first term. So whatever happens, we will keep learning, and I'm grateful for that.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Mr. Osiloka, I want you to chip in here now.
You can't throw the baby away with the dirty bad water. We have a pandemic. It has necessitated the use of online educational method for now. However, you can't ever displace the traditional method of learning, which is the in-person classroom experience. And because actually it ensures a better understanding and recollection of lesson content, and gives the class members a chance to bond with each other and learn from each other. You will also be able to concentrate harder on your learning because you're not distracted by things that you usually are open to while at home. And you can gain greater understanding from the stories and the real-world examples from the teachers and from fellow students. Yes. And of course, you have a greater chance of completing your course.
Okay.
The research has it.
I'm sure she will chip in on that.
Research has it.
Yes.
Actually, that those who do class experience are 5 times more likely to complete their studies than those who depend on online education. Okay. That's why there's a lot of responsibility placed on the shoulders of the students, if you are doing online education, rather than when you are doing the normal, traditional kind of learning where you are in school. So definitely the health challenges here, and it does pose a problem for in-class participation. Yet that is the real way of teaching. We can bring in some aspects of online, but not definitely the traditional. She says she's the vice principal of AIA.
Yes,
otherwise, should we close AIA?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to. Right. I mean, we had the issue, for instance, of funding. You know, parents were arguing, should we pay, shouldn't we pay? But it was easy for our parents to say, you know, we're happy to pay. Because we can see the value that's being created, even though this teaching is happening online. So you don't have to close it. I agree with you on a few points, and then I disagree on others. Research has indeed proven that, you know, it's easier to complete traditional classes, but that's because they actually focus probably on older learners, probably tertiary institutions like yours. But you see, for those of them that are in the secondary primary, it's not primarily on their shoulders to decide whether or not to engage. Perhaps the quality of learning that they do could be affected in some way. But you see, it's now, you know...
they're supervised.
They're supervised.
By their parents.
By their parents.
Who go to work.
Well,
and who are engaged in businesses.
Well, there are ways these are done. No, really. I mean, when I say this, I'm actually speaking practically. We had, the lockdown is unique because it locked down the parents as well as the children. And we had some people here and there who obviously, even during the lockdown, their parents had to go out. But the thing is that this is something that has come to stay. So even the system is evolving various ways of engaging. For instance, you said something about documentation, which I don't entirely agree with. Because for young people, for even older people, you can be careless with your material. But what happens online is everything is actually documented. We use an app that allowed us to have a separate section for classes, a separate section for assignment, a separate folder. It was designed to work that way. So even those who joined in later because they got in later, they had access to all the material. It was there.
Note that, madam, I do understand that there are values that online materials add, online resources add, and how you data bank your system to improve knowledge and learning. However, you can't do solo online.
Yes, of course.
It's just, if we are to do perhaps an averaging of how much of in-learning, in-class learning, and online that we should have, I will be looking at about 70 to 30 ratio.
More of traditional.
About that kind of balancing. And I'm glad that you are talking from your own experience. You're here in Abuja. It's a metropolitan city.
If you go
and your students are basically in homes where they do have network
and access,
and they do have access to such learning. And we are talking about a student population in secondary school in Nigeria of almost 100 million. And now if, perhaps not up to that, not up to that, but possibly about 50 million or thereabouts. And then about that number, people who are in the rural settings, in fact, even here in Abuja, unfortunately, where I'm living in Abuja, it's a developing place. It's quite really near town, but I'm surprised I have tried almost all the networks to find out which one I can use for my online issues. And I find that each one keeps failing me. Now, if my children are to depend on that, what a pitiable condition they would be.
Yes.
So really, in a situation, and okay, even when we divorce the fact of the challenges of network and access, we also begin to talk about the issues of the ability of the resources to completely teach the student. Okay. And I would not be surprised. I don't know if you have started your senior secondary school.
No,
not yet. So you are JS now,
yes,
junior secondary. Yet you have integrated science, and I would have I would like to have your experience on how the teachers were able to effectively teach integrated science or mathematics or things like that online. There are definitely going to be drawbacks. So we need to actually balance this and be able to say this is the way to go. We need to involve online teaching.
Into the traditional.
Integrate it into the traditional method of teaching. In fact, I would even look at where, for instance, there are several kind of special subjects that have master teachers, whereby you could have those resources and help to beef up whatever the classroom teacher is able to give to the student. But definitely the traditional method is still
Let me come back to you now, Ma. Talking about being creative and you mentioned the subjects like maths and integrated science. How do you help students to follow up in such a class? So now, of course, not everyone learns at the same pace. There are some students who are very sharp, they can follow up, but others may not necessarily be able to follow up. So does online learning actually give room for such flexibility and creativity? If it's maths and other courses like that, can students actually follow?
Absolutely. Well, I think I will start from the angle of expertise, which you mentioned. One of the things that it's cliche now when we say the world has become a global village, and it indeed has become a global village. And the aim of education is to prepare children to cope with this global village that we're talking about. And so when you consider online learning, it becomes an invaluable tool for doing that, because you're then able to draw on expertise from anywhere in the world, across continents, across countries, and then you bring it right there into the classroom. In fact, you have a situation where the children...
You bring it into the classroom.
You bring it right into the classroom.
Into the online class.
An online classroom, okay? It can be an online classroom, it can be on the ground. But I'm talking about an online classroom now. So you bring all that in, and you're able to do that only because you have that option. Personally, I've done some courses that I thought, I'd like to quickly go to the US and do this. And then I punch my calculator and then I sit there and I'm like, oh, no, that's not going to happen. And then I go online and I see a university that's offering the course for free. And I get a chance to preview and I do it and it's fantastic and I get everything I want. Because then perhaps I'm not looking for a certificate, I'm just looking to build on a skill. Again, I would say this is more relevant perhaps for those in the tertiary institutions, because when you have to deal with the challenge of staying motivated, which is the reason why those who don't complete online courses don't, it's easier for somebody who's decided, you know what, I want to learn how to do this, to turn up and show up. But when it comes to creativity, flexibility, paced learning, if you ask me, I would say it's probably even a little easier with the online learning, because usually the platforms, the apps that are available now, they give you a chance to relate with the children in such a manner that, okay, this person is moving really quick, give him a link while others are working on this, he's quickly working on the other one. The other person is still, so you're able to give that child some attention. You can, I mean, for a class that you're doing, maybe without using video, you can schedule a meeting that allows you to do video. So there's, for some of the kids who already, as you know, are so into online on everything, it's actually, for them now, it's a digital adventure. That's the way, that's the way,
we must be mindful, man, of building robots.
In the children.
Yeah, turning our children into robots. Okay. That personal touch, that personal relationships, okay, Many teachers have mentored people, have changed a child's orientation from thinking that he or she is a failure to motivating that child to become somebody in society. It is a personal touch.
Yes.
It's not something that you can do in a cold manner like what the online system without I would that you can set up Zoom, you can set up Skype, you can set up all these tools that you could use to talk to each other, but the person is still far away.
One-on-one.
It's not, it can't, that aura of a personal touch, that relationships that they build. And that's why at the end of the day, you would, a vice chancellor will look at you on the day of your matriculation and tell you that don't just pass through this university. Let this institution also pass through. It has a lot of advantage. It has a lot of values that it brings. I am not dismissing the added value that online learning does bring. But definitely, there is never ever going to be a time that you completely do away with online. Again, I say that on a ratio basis, for me, as an educational administrator, I would still suggest a combination of our 70-30.
Okay. I will not worry about that combination right now. I would be more interested in making sure that we see that there are actually a lot of beliefs we have that are not really what they should be. Now, I know that, yes, you don't physically touch that person. You don't have some of the kind of connection you're talking about when you describe aura. But then you see, if the teacher who's using this online platform is as skilled as that teacher should be, you find that online learning can actually be quite intimate. Because you see, in a traditional classroom, you have children sitting somewhere at the back. There are some kids, you virtually have to pin them to get them to sit in front. Every chance they get, they run right back. But you see, when it's an online teaching platform, if it's the kind that employs visuals, for instance in Zoom, it's an eyeball thing. So everybody's on the front row when you're dealing with online learning. Everybody's sitting out in front. You're out there, you can't, and then when there's a prompt, you have to answer.
How many of your monitoring panels can you take? You have about 40 students that you are teaching.
Well, right now what we do
so you have
to
so absolutely there's going to be rules. There's still going to be rules.
Well, that intimacy you're talking about is there. Okay, I have students now who, when I'm engaging with them online, I'm surprised that they can say the things they can say, because it turns out that based on their personality, they're actually more comfortable. That they're in an environment where they're comfortable and they're able to express themselves better than they did when they were in the class.
But let's build human beings,
not robots.
It wouldn't make them robots.
It would a lot.
It wouldn't make them robots.
So we'll just hold on that point while we'll just go on a short break and we'll come back.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I wouldn't want to say we're in a state of anarchy, as it is, because no one is sure of his life walking on the streets anywhere today in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But in the words of national security, I think we are in a state of emergency.
Nobody will say that what is happening in the country is that. Anybody that says that is very, very economical with the truth.
Once a law is made in any nation, nobody is above the law. If a church has a business entity, the church should pay their own taxation on whatever business they have that they are making money.
Election is not war. Soldiers must not be mobilized for election. Election is a civil affair, and I'm saying that to the federal government. Police has a primary responsibility in protecting the balloting process.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This has been Crossfire, and we have been looking at online education versus traditional education. I know for many of us who are used to the traditional education, and with the rise of the pandemic in recent times, we've had to have makeshift arrangements to see how online comes on board. And we have two very qualified people here who have been discussing the issue so far. Mrs. Nkiru Nwafo, who has been talking on online education, and Mr. Osiloka Zikora. Thank you very much. Let me come back to you, Mark. Since just before we went on the break, we were talking about this face-to-face interaction, and our daddy has been saying we don't want to build robots, so that the children don't become, they just go online, do what they need to do, and then go out, and they just seem to be interacting with just the computers. So coming to you now, this issue of face-to-face interaction, is there some sense of, how do you instill discipline? How do you make sure that the children are actually getting what they need to get? Because if you're in a classroom, you can see who is sleeping, you can see who wants to run away, you can see everyone. But online, I don't know, sometimes they might put off the video, or they might just get distracted with some other things in the comfort of their home. So how do you manage that?
Okay. Yes. There are some things that are similar online and in the classroom, the traditional classroom. And it is that there's a presence that a teacher is supposed to come into a classroom with. Now, what's been happening with online learning is that the apps that are designed for teaching, they recognize that there are certain things that need to be in place. It is still the responsibility of the teacher to make sure that he creates a certain kind of platform. I must confess that online it's more tasking. Because you do now have to be such an effective communicator that you are really good at engaging and holding the children. When we first started, we had a lot of notes, we were talking, but then after a while we realized that when we started having issues with concentration, discipline, we realized we had to bring in a whole lot more sound bites, videos, you know, all sorts of things to keep them engaged. So yes, in the traditional classroom, you still have the challenge that when a teacher isn't even skilled in managing the class, he's there, but there's a party going on while he's there. There are notes that are being passed. Online learning, you also have a situation where you're probably teaching you on a thread, and then you look down the thread and you find out that the children are talking about the match last night, right? So you have to be able, they have to, when they realize that the teacher doesn't even know how to use this, oh my goodness, you're in trouble. So it's actually about the skill. It's about the kind of platform you use. All that comes, they all come into play.
Now, for you, sir, Mr. Osiloka, in traditional education, now a teacher might, of course, be creative, might be flexible, and all of that, but sometimes in traditional learning, a teacher can get distracted with another topic, or maybe something just erupted in class, or some other things happen, or they're not even mindful of the time. With online, you know, okay, you have 1 hour, you have 1.5 hours, you do what you need to do and go. But then traditional in class, sometimes teachers can get distracted and go beyond the time. How is that managed?
Well, every situation presents its challenges.
Definitely.
And, definitely teachers are being trained and retrained on how to manage classes. Of course, about timing, he or she knows, because obviously the subjects are given time slots. Okay, so there's a timetable, so you ought to finish your lesson within your time and be able to finish the scope that has been given to you to finish within a day. Because if you don't, it will affect the next day or the term in itself. And of course, the next teacher might be coming in the next, if you're not the one who's going to take the next lesson. So you've got to learn how to manage your time and to manage the class. So this are the works. I'm glad that my colleague here is the Vice Principal Administration. This is the work that they do. They have monitors, people who monitor the classrooms to see what the teachers are doing and to see that they are performing up to task. But then this actually presents some challenges.
You know, another challenge I'm thinking about in traditional in-class learning is the question of distance. If, you know, a student is in a boarding facility and due to one reason or the other, they can't be in school, maybe because of distance, or there's some kind of problem in the city, you know, and the child has to travel such a distance, you know, isn't that a difficulty? Especially now with the rate of insecurity in Nigeria. Gradually, I think traditional in-class will be will be reducing. People will want to opt more for
challenges.
Yes,
it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Yes.
Even as we stay here talking, we still have a security challenge. So there is nowhere, there is nothing that really reduces the security challenges. It's the lot of the government to provide security to schools and other environments. The students that will stay at home are also prone to attacks. Okay. The students that will leave, for instance, in villages, we have centers during this pandemic that they ask will be a central place where they ask all the students to come into and get this online thing. To go from your village house to that place is also a security challenge. So there is nowhere that there is no security challenge. There is nothing in life that doesn't present such challenges. We depend on the government to do the right things and to provide the necessary security that should be provided to society. And beyond that, we depend on God, who is our overall security.
That's true. That's
and
true.
If I may, concerning this, even before the COVID-19, there are some schools that had designed what is now called blended learning, a very good combination of the traditional and the online, so that, for instance, the facilities they have, all the classes are recorded as the classes go on. They are uploaded to the school's website. And so what happens is, if for instance you take ill, and so you're not, but then you're not so ill that you can't learn, all you have to do is connect. You connect, and then you're able to, you know, do whatever it is. You can even, if you feel well enough,
a plus for what
but don't feel strong. Absolutely.
Yes, definitely. In fact, I was even going to ask, you know, what happens in a situation where, traditional in class, a teacher comes, maybe writes on the chalkboard or just gives the notes, and its child is not there. Such a child will have missed out.
Technology
that kind of
is
class.
helping today. The traditional class of my time is no longer the traditional class of today.
Yes.
For instance, my BSc was about 29 years ago. That's in 91. We've just formed our class reunion. We were able to gather some of the people. And unfortunately, we are unable to, the class photographs.
Wow.
You could imagine if that's no longer a challenge today, because you can use your phones, take photographs, and it's automatically stored. You can download them into your
phones,
your laptops or your computers, and free up the space there. Students can actually use their phones and connect to a class. Now, so definitely the traditional class is no longer the same. It ought to be complemented by what we have now with technology. And that is very vital.
Of course.
If you stay in the past traditional class, you are bound to lose.
That's true.
You are bound to lose. However, the traditional method, the face-to-face learning, is absolutely a need. There's absolutely the need for that.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, let me come back to you, Ma. You know, one of the major disadvantages of online classes, I think we already inferred to it earlier, it's about the social and physical interactions with classmates. Those ones who are shy, those ones who don't make any contributions, those ones who are a bit slow in learning, do interactions actually play a role for a child to learn better and learn faster?
Well, what I would say concerning that is that, yes, it's important. Just like we had mentioned before, sometimes for some children, a simple pat on the back means a lot. There's a system, there's a technique for teaching where when you identify certain children who are simply being stubborn, you just don't let them go. So you ask a question and you say, what's this? Oh, ma'am, I don't know. And then you ask another person, the person tells you the answer. Then you go back to that child and you say, now, will you tell me what the answer is? So, you do have that opportunity in a traditional classroom. Yes, that is there. But like I said, because we have these beliefs that, it's online, so it's not possible, we don't explore things that can actually be done there. What happens is, for online learning, you now have to be more creative. You don't focus simply on loading things up or turning them into robots, like he said. What you actually do is you make sure they're not robots. You create projects, you group them, you put them in groups, you already know them, you know that these people have common interests. So there are different ways you can actually deal with it and still create that. Well, sometimes I go, the girls are going to give me a whole bank of this. I call it some kind of name it a challenge, and you see the kids all go for it because they do that anyway on a regular basis with other things.
You know, one of my greatest problems concerning the issue, the advantage that technology has brought is actually is creating us, is making us individualized.
It is doing that.
That's okay.
It is doing that.
And the society is no longer socially relating, which is part of the very needful nature. After all, God created Adam and said that it was not good for man to be alone. Okay, so we are gradually being we are losing touch with fellow human beings as we are no longer relating. And there's a famous passage from Things Fall Apart, you know, that Chinua Achebe wrote, that Obi Erege said that when we come out to the village square to eat, it is not that we don't have food at home, or that it is because we need to greet our kinsmen. We need to see them and greet them. Okay, and let's not get into a situation where anyone would think tomorrow that the online learning, even if they find a means of bridging the gap that you do have when that's for sciences, labs and what have you, even if they find a means, and they may because they are what have you, okay, they create simulations now and things like that. Okay, even if they do, I can bet you that a child who has never tested thermometer and you show him all of it, when he's about to do it practically, he will still have a problem. Okay, and at the end of the day, we are losing touch with society. We are losing touch because it's about communication. It's about relationships. That's what society is built for. And it will come to a time that it will also affect, do you know what it will affect? The ability for us to have teachers.
That's true.
It will impact even on employment issues. We may tomorrow find a means of getting robots to teach.
Yes, you just teach.
Because if you program a robot will do it far better than a human being. He will know, that's if you just give him all the skills that he needs. The only thing he will not bring into the business is the human touch.
Yes, the human touch, yes. Definitely.
So, at the end of the day, there is a need to integrate online learning into the system that we do have. But take it from me, the face-to-face learning still remains germane. And what is needed for things to be done. I could have stayed at home for this program.
Yeah, that's true.
But I wouldn't have gotten to meet
her.
Would have met online.
Would have met online. That's online. That's online. Okay, so that's what society is all about. God didn't create us to be alone and to be compartmentalized into parking lots.
I understand that we've gone from physical distancing or social distancing and then self-isolation maybe, and then like he said, it's beginning to head towards the place where from self-isolation we don't necessarily care about each other, we really don't want to connect,
and
we want to stay and do our own thing.
Yes, and research is showing that it's actually affecting the psychology of children.
The children too.
That they're unable to see their fellow children and play and what have you, and interact.
But if it's online, they're a bit free. They can do whatever they want to do.
They can be anybody. But they still desire. There's still a desire for that communication, for that communion.
Well, I agree with you to a large extent, but then because, like I said, the world we're in is one where these children have to deal with this anyway. What happens is that like I said, the different learning platforms in choosing, for instance, for a school, in choosing what learning platform to use, what app to use, you want to be sure that you look for the one that makes these things possible for you. For instance,
make it to
some extent, not absolutely. A human is still human. I agree with that. A human is human, but then you want to be conscious of it, because some people do jump into it without thinking about all these things. So they go, okay, yes, we have the material, we have the curriculum, we've been able to deal with it. But then what about the non-curricular, right? If you are conscious of it, then even in giving assignments, you wouldn't just say, write 10 words for me. You would say, the girls, write 10 words for me. And you already have a WhatsApp group where there's a teacher who's monitoring their work. You have a chat room where the teacher is able to go in and see, oh, okay, girls, you've got 10 now. Oh, you're doing better than the boys. Keep going. So you actually consciously begin to create the kind of platforms that allow them to connect. And what I have found happens is that if it's used properly, when you now have an in-class, on-the-ground thing, it actually works best. You know, people start talking about things they had said online. So what we tried to do at our school, we tried to create that. We had the online platforms, they were encouraged to save their notes, but then we said, you know what, we want to see you at a particular location, and we want you to bring your notes. Their parents said some of them spent all night writing.
Absolutely.
Which they told us they had done before. So yes, that human touch, it is important.
Okay, so finally on you. Now, traditional learning places a little more burden, you know, on the teachers to cover their syllabus and teach several hours. But whereas for online learning, you give the students a little more room, you make sure they are self-motivated to meet up with their assignments. Do you agree with this, that for online, it seems to focus more on the students?
Each method has its challenges.
Okay.
However, on the traditional aspect, that it's a lot of the teacher.
Yes.
That's why the teacher is trained to be a teacher, and the teacher is also paid to perform his job, or his or her job. So definitely, these challenges are there. We keep training and retraining teachers to be able to cope with them. And it is necessary that we continue to do so. However, that's, if I'm permitted to say that, the important thing is that in the traditional method, let's not remain where we are. We need to know that technology has come, and technology can make you perform better and can give you the resources with which you can be a better teacher. And you shouldn't be shy, and the school should invest in such matters so as to be able to give greater advantage to the students.
That's a very good one. Just on a final note, you know, to schools and maybe even to the government, Nigeria, what can we do to make online learning better in our society? Just on a final note.
Well, I'm glad that this also came up, because like I said, during the lockdown, I had in my house a lot of children registered at different schools. I had some of them in federal government schools, and I was really disappointed that the federal government wasn't putting enough effort in ensuring that these kids are preparing for an exam, and that they're actually doing something to help with the online learning, to help the teachers upgrade their skills, while other schools were doing that. Now, you could talk about costs, you could talk about network, like he spoke earlier, but then there are also ways to handle these things. For instance, I know that at a point, there was a conversation concerning the government partnering with OEMs, these original equipment manufacturers, partnering with the mass communication companies, MTN and co, so that they would have these devices that would work just for schools, that would charge lower rates. These things are possible, and these are things they should actually look into.
That you didn't know that the federal government did try to provide this.
Well,
and they were there.
Well,
you see, yes, they were there. And just to say this, the education is on the concurrent list, and mainly handled by the states. The federal government coming to complement and to set the standards. But the Federal Ministry of Education was actually, that's headlong into making sure that these schools have the capacity to handle these students while at home. They negotiated with the Federal Ministry of Information that gave Radio Nigeria and NTA their channels there, which master teachers taught, and these things were being broadcast. And you can tune into your radio and get these lessons. They also made available the resource of the master teachers to all schools and made them available and negotiated with the network providers to provide free access. Actually, the Federal Ministry of Education did that. I must say that the COVID-19 pandemic era that we are passing through is bringing out the best in us in the issue of our trying to face situations that occur through an innovative point of stance. And I would encourage your school to perhaps interface with the Federal Ministry of Education, the secondary school, and you'll find out all of these resources that they have made available.
I guess that what probably happened because is that it got to some places even I'm talking about even the federal government schools. They obviously got to some and not to others because a couple of them that I know about, and I'd rather not be specific, did not get this advantage that you're talking about.
It took time. It took time to prepare. But I'm not too sure that there's a principal of a Unity College that you call today, and they don't have a portal where these things are.
Whether they use it or not would be a different thing.
It does that communicates to the students. And again, that's maybe there was poor communication with the students and the parents.
Probably. Blended learning is.
And then again, you also know the servers. The point where the servers are can also affect this. But then once you put them in the cloud, I guess that the challenge that most people had was access.
Definitely. Well, we hope some of these things have been put in place already to help Nigerian students all over to learn better, to learn faster, so that our future can actually be brighter for our nation.
Absolutely.
We thank you both very much for enlightening us on this topic, and I'm sure, as you said, 70-30, maybe 50, that might, 50. Or 50-50, okay. We'll see how some of these things can come into play to help future generations. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, no doubt many institutions have begun to adapt to online learning. However, the curriculum of every school should be designed to implement both traditional and online learning. In the case of online versus traditional education, there is definitely no right or wrong answer, as long as students are getting the best of both worlds and are becoming more motivated and engaged with their learning. These learning formats can be very effective depending on how the teachers deliver the curriculum and engage students, both online and in class. We thank you very much for staying with us. Till next time, stay safe and stay blessed.